brilliantly white, bright flash. Heat like I've never experienced before in my life just hit me.
7/7 ringleader Mohammed Sadiq Khan had detonated his rucksack bomb.
Just felt like somebody had filled the carriage with compressed air and then sucked it out really quickly. And I got blown out of the train. I hit the tunnel wall and then I landed in the crawl space between the tunnel wall and the track, so I'm on the floor of the tunnel. I didn't know it was a bomb at the time. I thought, with the white flash, I thought it was an electrical explosion.
Dan wasn't the only person thinking it might have been a terrible accident.
We heard that there had been some sort of incident on the London Underground.
In 2005, Lord Evans, then Jonathan Evans, was Deputy Director of MI5, the UK security service that gathers intelligence to protect the nation.
There was a suggestion that this might be something to do with an electrical fault or something.
I immediately felt that this was potentially something very sinister.
Peter Clark, head of counter-terrorism for the Metropolitan Police, was at home when he got the call. He had a different sense from Evans.
Only 4 days before, some parts of the anti-terrorist branch had been away for a weekend exercise where we went through what we consider would be the worst possible scenario in terms of an attack in London, which was multiple attacks on the Underground.
As the smoke cleared to reveal the awful truth, the police and intelligence services got an urgent message to the nation's leaders.
I was in a conversation with the Chinese president at the time, and Jonathan Powell, who was my chief of staff, was passed a note saying there's been an incident on the London Underground.
Prime Minister Tony Blair was hosting the G8 summit of world leaders at Gleneagles in Scotland.
Even though you hope that it's not terrorism, your instinct tells you that it was right from the very beginning.
Within the half an hour or so, it became clear, particularly with the bus attack in Bloomsbury, that this was terrorism.
I'm Dominic Casciani, and I've covered terrorism as a BBC correspondent over the 20 years since the worst ever act of terror on British soil. Now in this series, State of Terror, I'll be looking at how the attack and the response to it changed us all. I'll be examining how the state responded, how extremist violence changed the nation, and how, in the 2 decades since, we and our leaders have been severely tested by a series of mortal threats.
My protection team came in to take me out of the voting lobby. I'm afraid I was kind of, what are you doing? What's you know? And they just whisked me down to the car. And then I heard on the radio or somebody say, "Man down."
In this series, we go behind the scenes with those responsible for protecting us. Prime Ministers Theresa May and Tony Blair, leaders of the UK's security services, police and probation officers trying to contain the threat, who reveal what a terrorist believes.
This idea that he was going to give up his life to save other people. He wasn't looking at, well, he was going to give up his life by killing other people, but he didn't look at it like that. He was saving other people because he was making a statement.
And we'll meet those paying the highest price as victims and damaged survivors, some working tirelessly to transform how Britain deals with terror threats today.
Looked at the minister and his entourage and said, "Well, Minister, as you can see, I'm only a small person." But I said, however, I did read somewhere that if you think small is not effective, you have never been in bed with a mosquito. I'm the mosquito, and I ain't going anywhere until this is done.
Just before 9 a.m. on July the 7th, 2005, in the tube tunnel at Edgware Road, Dan Biddle was fighting for his life.
The really weird thing was, straight after the explosion, you could have heard a pin drop in the tunnel. It was almost as if everybody had just took a big intake of breath and waited for somebody to make a noise. And as soon as one person did, it was like opening the gates of hell. It was just screaming like I've never heard before.
Were you conscious all the way through them?
Fully. I started screaming for help. Then I heard this really deep South African voice shout out, "What's your name?" I didn't know who he was talking to, so I just was like, "Right, now's your chance." I shouted, "Dan." He said, "My name's Adrian, don't worry, I'm going to find you." And Adrian was in the carriage behind the one that I was in. He had managed to prise the door open and get out. He crawled through God knows what to get to me. And then he said to me, "I'm not going to lie to you, this is really going to hurt." And at that point I thought, how? Because everything that's just happened and what I've done and pulling the pole out of myself and all the rest.